Dubrovnik has a problem that almost no other city in Europe has, and it is a problem entirely of its own making. It is too beautiful. Specifically, it is beautiful in a way that photographs perfectly, that translates completely into a screen, that requires no context or explanation to produce an immediate and powerful reaction in anyone who sees it. Limestone walls, terracotta rooftops, the Adriatic so blue it looks like someone chose the color deliberately. The result is a city that receives more visitors per square meter than almost anywhere on the continent. That has been a Game of Thrones filming location, and therefore carries a second layer of visual recognition on top of its already considerable first one, and that most tourists move through in a single day because the old town is compact, and the cruise ship schedule doesn't allow for more. 5 days in Dubrovnik sounds like too much. It isn't. It is the difference between seeing the city and understanding it, between collecting the photographs and having the experience that makes you not need them. This is how to use those 5 days without wasting a single one. You arrive, and the instinct is to go immediately to the old town and begin. Resist it for exactly 1 hour. Drop your bags, drink something cold, and walk to the Pile Gate, the main western entrance to the walled city, without an agenda. Not to see anything specific, just to arrive. The Stradun, the main limestone street that runs the length of the old town, is where Dubrovnik introduces itself, and the introduction goes better when you're not trying to accomplish anything during it. Walk the length of it. Sit at a cafe on the side streets that branch from it. Watch the city doing what it does in the late afternoon when the day trippers from the cruise ships are beginning to leave, and the light goes golden on the stone, and the residents reappear in the spaces the tourists briefly vacated. This is the first version of Dubrovnik, the city at rest. Remember it because it will be harder to find in the middle of the day for the rest of the week. The evening of day 1 is for Bar, which has no sign and no obvious entrance, and is found by following a hole in the old town wall on the seaward side until you emerge onto a platform of rocks above the Adriatic with a drink in your hand, and the city behind you, and the open sea in front. The directions sound like something from a fairy tale, and the experience justifies them. Go at sunset. Stay until it's dark. Day 2 begins before 8 in the morning, which is not a suggestion. The city walls are the defining experience of Dubrovnik, and they are also the experience most damaged by crowds, which begin arriving from the cruise ships after 9 and reach their peak volume between 10 and 1. The walls run nearly 2 kilometers around the entire perimeter of the old town, and the walk takes between 90 minutes and 2 hours depending on how long you stop at the viewpoints, which is where the terracotta rooftops drop away below you, and the Adriatic opens on the other side, and the geometry of the medieval city becomes visible in a way that no street-level walk can produce. Go early. Bring water. Stop at every viewpoint. The walls in the early morning, with the light still low and the city quiet below, are the walls as they were intended to be experienced, as a place of genuine strategic elevation, not a tourist queue with views. The afternoon of day 2 belongs to Lokrum Island, 15 minutes from the old town harbor by ferry and a world apart from the city in every measurable way. Lokrum is a nature reserve. No permanent residents, no hotels, no restaurants beyond a single cafe, covered in dense Mediterranean vegetation with peacocks wandering through it with the particular confidence of animals that have never been given a reason for insecurity. There is a saltwater lake in the island's interior where you can swim in water that is calmer and warmer than the open sea outside. By mid-afternoon, when the day trippers who came on the morning ferry have mostly returned to the city, Lokrum becomes one of the quietest places accessible within 20 minutes of a major European tourist destination. This is worth something. Stay for it. Day 3 is the day trip, and the day trip is Kotor. Kotor is in Montenegro, 90 minutes from Dubrovnik by bus or car, and it is the destination that most people who visit Dubrovnik are told about, and most people who visit Dubrovnik do not go to, which means it is simultaneously one of the most recommended day trips in the Balkans, and one of the most consistently skipped. This is worth correcting. Kotor is a medieval walled city inside a bay that from above looks like a fjord. The mountains drop directly into the water, and the town sits at the base of them, compact and perfectly preserved and significantly less visited than Dubrovnik despite being comparably beautiful and considerably more atmospheric. The hike to the fortress above the town follows a path of stone steps built into the mountain and takes about 45 minutes at a reasonable pace, and the view from the top, the bay spreading out below, the mountains reflected in the water, the red rooftops of the old town impossibly small beneath you, is among the best views available anywhere in the Adriatic region. Go up. The climb earns the view in a way that a cable car cannot. Back in Dubrovnik by evening, with enough time for dinner in the old town at one of the restaurants on the streets that branch away from the Stradun rather than on the Stradun itself, where the prices reflect the foot traffic rather than the quality of the kitchen. Day 4 splits between elevation and water, which between them cover most of what Dubrovnik offers beyond the walls. The Dubrovnik cable car runs from just outside the old town to the summit of Mount Srd, and the ride takes 4 minutes and delivers a view that reorganizes the entire geography of everything you've seen at ground level for the past 3 days. The city below, the islands in the distance, the coastline running north and south. This is the view that explains how Dubrovnik works, how the walls relate to the sea, how the harbor sits in relation to the old city, how small and precise the whole thing is from above. Go in the morning before the heat builds at the summit. Skip the restaurant at the top, which is priced for captive audiences. Bring water and take your time. The afternoon is for the Elaphiti Islands, the small archipelago north of Dubrovnik that most visitors to the city never reach. Boat tours to the islands depart from the harbor and cover 3 islands, Kolisep, Lopud, and Sipin, in a day that includes swimming stops in water that is cleaner and calmer than anything near the city, and lunch on board that is part of the package when you book directly at the harbor rather than through a hotel concierge, where the same tour costs significantly more for no additional quality. The islands are small and quiet, and almost entirely without the tourist infrastructure that defines the main city. Sipin in particular, the largest and least visited of the 3, has a pace and a character that feel genuinely remote despite being an hour from one of the most visited cities in Europe. Day 5 is for the parts of Dubrovnik that don't appear in the photographs, which is where the city's actual texture lives. The neighborhood of Buza, not the bar, the neighborhood, sits above and behind the Jesuit church in the upper part of the old town and is reached by a staircase that most visitors walk past without noticing. Up the stairs, and the crowds thin immediately. The streets here are residential in a way that the Stradun never is. Laundry on lines between windows, cats on doorsteps, the sound of a television from behind a half-open shutter. This is where people live inside the walls of a UNESCO World Heritage Site, which is an unusual condition and one that gives the neighborhood an atmosphere unlike anywhere else in the city. Walk slowly. There is no landmark to find. The point is the walking. Banje Beach is 5 minutes from the Pile Gate and is the most accessible swimming spot near the old town, a stretch of pebbles with a view back toward the walls that is one of the more quietly spectacular vistas in Dubrovnik, available for the cost of a towel on the stones. Go in the early morning of the last day, before the beach fills, when the light is still low and the walls are reflected in the water, and the city is doing its best impression of the place it is when nobody is watching. If the flight is in the evening, the luggage storage at the Old Town Left Luggage Office means the last hours don't have to be spent managing bags. They can be spent in the city, at whatever pace the last morning suggests, a final coffee on a side street, a walk back along the Stradun one more time, a stop at the harbor to watch the ferries moving between islands. Dubrovnik rewards the visitor who gets up early and stays out late and walks in the direction away from the obvious thing. 5 days is enough to do all of that. Enough to go past the walls and the photographs and the Game of Thrones filming locations and find the city that exists when the cruise ships have gone and the light is changed and the stone has cooled and Dubrovnik is briefly, quietly, just itself. That version is worth the 5 days. It's worth considerably more. Thanks for watching. If you found this useful, smash that like button and subscribe to When to Travel. We're all about helping you make smarter travel decisions. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. And hey, if you think your friends need this, share it. Comment below with your next destination or your biggest travel question. I'm reading all of them. Let's go.